Hey everybody, well, thank you so much for joining us for a sermon discussion. It was a great message this past week, the cost of going off. And this is just our opportunity to go beyond the sermon. And it's a really special week because we have an incredible guest with us today. This is Amanda Lynn. Welcome, Amanda Lynn.
Hi.
Amanda Lynn is an e-group leader. She is a working mom and she has 3 beautiful kids. And we're just so excited that you're here today. And with Mother's Day coming up, we just wanted to bring on another e-group leader to kind of discuss the sermon and discuss kind of what God is teaching you through all these messages and how it just practically relates to real life. So
Awesome.
we're excited that you're here. We're excited that we get to just talk about the message. And we're excited that it's May.
Yes.
I love May. I love the promise of springtime. I know it's been a bit slow to start, but the trees are blossoming. I don't know, spring is on the way.
Slow but steady.
But steady. What are you most looking forward to in the month of May?
I think for me, Mother's Day is just around the corner. So I'm really excited about that because I love being a mom. And as well, for the month of May, this weekend, we are going to be tulip picking with my e-group. So that's going to be super exciting. So I'm really excited for that. I've never actually gone tulip picking before, but I'm really excited of the photos.
Tulip picking. That is right up my alley. That is so cool.
So the whole family is actually going. So it'll be really nice. So I'm excited for all the bunches of tulips that I'm going to end up getting because it's just in time for Mother's Day. And I think it's going to be really cute.
I love that.
That is so fun.
That is so fun. I definitely need information on that because I would love to go. That would be so cool. I'm looking forward to, we are dedicating Grace on May 15th. We are having child dedications here at Elevation right after the second worship experience. And I'm just excited to bring my whole family to church and our church family and be able to just pray over her and dedicate growing her up in the church, really. What about you?
I'm excited to go to Charlotte, North Carolina. So we are going back to Charlotte as a staff team, and I'm just so excited to be there and to see what God's going to do in and through us in those couple days that we're there.
We always come back with lots of different takeaways for all of you. So I'm looking forward to going too.
So I have a question for you.
Okay.
It's not often that we get 2 moms in the same place at the same time because you both are always so busy, but I had a few questions for you, and the first one being, this past Sunday, Pastor Robert Madu talked about how even the Bible doesn't talk about Jesus' teenage years.
Yes.
So I wanted to know, if you're there in the chat, put it below, what's a memory from your teenage years that you would want written in your book of life? And I want to hear from both of you. What's a memory of your teenage years that you want written in your book of life?
That I would want. Okay, I'm so glad you said that I would want and not that I wouldn't want. But to be honest, my teenage years was spent doing a lot of traveling. So I actually lived abroad with my dad for a bit. And I think that experience, just being able to be in a different country for a while, really immerse myself in the culture. Like I was able to do, it just created so many opportunities. And so that's kind of, I would love to be able to share that with my children or have them experience something similar to that.
That's cool. You learn so much when you're traveling. I feel
absolutely
the same way. Every experience I've had abroad, both of us have actually lived abroad too. You just, I don't know, you get a whole new perspective.
Absolutely, and just living, even like doing things that other people are doing. It's nice to go on vacation, but it's very, it's a totally different experience when you're like living there for a bit and immersing yourself in the culture. So that's one thing. That's a nice highlight.
I love that. Yeah. I think for me, so I came to know Jesus when I was 16 at summer camp. So I would definitely want that included in my part of the Bible, I guess, because that's where I knew him, and that's where my life was totally transformed. And I got baptized at that summer camp. So it was really special to me, and definitely like a big monumental moment that kind of changed the whole trajectory of my life, my family's life, and just now that I'm in ministry. So that would be mine.
That's awesome.
What about
So
you?
while I was sitting here, I was like, oh no, now I'm gonna have to answer it. I actually don't know what memory I would want, but I think one core memory for me is when my church did we called it a lock-in. And so our whole youth ministry came to the church one night. They locked all the doors, turned off all the lights, and we just had like one big sleepover and party and worship night, and it was so fun. And so I think that would be like
that's
my
good.
core memory.
Those moments are always so
Yes.
special.
Yeah. So I wanted us to take a look at this past weekend's sermon
Yes.
from Pastor Robert Madu. So let's check out this clip, and then we'll head into some sermon discussion.
I want to know, how's your anger? Anger is a universal emotion. When it comes to the issue of anger, the question is not if you are going to get angry. The question is when you get angry. What are you going to do when those feelings of rage well up inside of you? Ooh, how's your anger today? I want to talk first to all of you erupters. Erupters, yeah, because y'all are listening to this message. Erupters, ooh, y'all are crazy. Because whenever y'all get mad, we know about it. And we know it quickly because you explode. Erupters, y'all go off. You will throw a stapler across the cubicle. You will throw a chair. You erupt. And erupters, y'all are funny because after you go off, you look back at yourself once you calm down for a minute and you go, oh my goodness. Did I just do that? Did I just do that? Did I just walk up on stage and slap? Did I do that? What did I? Because once you calm down, you realize what in the world? I am what you call a stuffer. And stuffers, we are different than those erupters. Because stuffers, whenever we get mad, we don't kick, we don't yell, we don't scream. We just calmly say, even when you ask us, are you mad? We will look at you and go, no, I'm not mad. No, I'm fine. I am fine. It's okay. It happens. And all while we're saying it, we are ruminating and rehearsing over every single thing that you did. We cannot believe you had the nerve and the audacity to do it. And we are smiling, telling you, I'm fine. But all the while, we are pushing it down into the basement of our soul until it becomes a cantankerous cesspool of bitterness. And we will isolate and pull away emotionally, all while we're smiling and saying, I'm fine.
I loved that part of the sermon.
So good.
So funny.
So
That was so good.
He makes it so funny.
Yeah.
Too, the way that he explains everything, and I'm like, man, I feel seen
Yes.
right now. And you're doing it in such a
No
practical
judgment.
way. Yeah.
It's just good.
Yeah.
So
was
Pastor Robert Madu talked about this idea of you're either an erupter or a stuffer. And so I want to know what you ladies would identify with. So go ahead.
Put it in the chat too.
Yes,
as
put it
well.
in the
We
chat.
wanna know.
Don't leave me here by myself. Put it in the chat. Okay, so I'll go first, I guess. I would say, I would say that honestly speaking, I am a bit more of an erupter versus a stuffer. But you know what? I think that God has really done a work in me because he's reeled me in. So even times where I feel like, oh my gosh, I need to say something or I need to express myself in the middle of that anger, he seasons my words. He draws me in, he calms me down. So I feel like I still get to express myself and express how I'm feeling because I feel like that's important to me. It's difficult for me when I stuff everything down, but he allows me to express it in a very calm manner, in a very, seasoned. My words are very more seasoned and maybe easier to hear. So I'm just being honest.
I appreciate the honesty. Kristen, what would you say?
Yeah, I would definitely say that I'm more so on the side of an erupter, but the thing is, it kind of depends on who you're talking to, right?
Absolutely.
Like, I feel like I'm gonna stuff things down if maybe it's my friend that maybe upsets me or like my sister, but then sometimes it's like when you're with those people that you're most comfortable with, say my husband, he gets the big eruption. So definitely something that I am working on. And even he mentioned the verse from Proverbs about how a foolish person like a foolish person is the one that gets angry. And
Right.
I think it's so important to learn how to put anger in its place, like he
Absolutely.
mentioned, and realize, okay, I'm having this emotion. How can I still show those fruits of the spirits? How can I still be loving? How can I still be kind? And we're not going to get it right all the time, and I definitely don't. But it definitely made me more aware of how am I dealing with those things that trigger me, because we are going to get triggered, like he said, and something is it's not like. It's always going to be when we get angry.
Exactly.
Like, anger is inevitable.
It's not if, it's when.
Yeah.
And we have to mentally, I feel like, prepare ourselves for that and
Yeah.
equip ourselves for that.
Yeah.
And that's where just being in the Word and really trying to live like
Exactly,
Jesus and
yeah.
not letting that fleshy self take over. So it was really good.
Yeah, I think for me, the season of my life, I am definitely a stuffer. And when Pastor Robert Madu first started preaching this message, he was talking about the eruptors, and I was like, oh, this isn't a word for me because I don't get angry. And then he's like, but anger could also look like stuffing it down to the point where it like physically makes you sick. And I was like, oh, he's talking to me. So I would definitely say I'm a stuffer. I know some of the ladies in my e-group were talking about this, and one of them was like, well, can you be both?
Yeah.
I was like, I think you totally
I think you can be both. 'Cause
Absolutely.
it depends on the
Yeah.
circumstance. It depends with the person. It depends on so many things.
Absolutely.
We're all
Yeah.
a little bit of both.
We're all a little bit of both. So my next question for you would be in relation to being a parent. So Pastor Robert Madu talked about how parenthood is the fight of your life. And I heard a lot of parents laughing. I know my mom was like, yep, that's true. So I want to know, while being an erupter or a stuffer, and I want to hear from you ladies as well, what would you say your biggest challenge is navigating parenthood and anger, I guess?
I think for me, it's kind of understanding that everything that I'm going through is temporal. And whether you're a parent or not, it's keeping this perspective that things are so fleeting. And there's things that I experienced a year ago that I don't even remember anymore. And at that time, it really, really impacted me. And it's kind of understanding that everything has its season and this too shall pass. And I think it takes a lot to remember that in the moment. But it's really trying to just be present in the current situation that you're at and kind of taking it for what it is and realizing that things are always going to come in hills and valleys, right? Like things are always going to change, things are always moving, things are always going to ebb and flow. So what can I learn from this situation right now, rather than thinking that like it's always going to stay like this, really trying to glean the good from what you can.
Right, yeah. Especially with parenting, because it's like you have so many ups and downs.
Yes.
I think for me, it was and still is just having that grace, having that patience for my kids is, just understanding that they too are learning.
Yes.
Like, and
That's
so
good.
sometimes when I want to, yell at them, or when I've asked them to do something for, the 100th time, it's just also remembering what it was like to be, a preteen or in that situation.
Yes.
And, they have their minds, they have so much things they're trying to process and go through. And the more that I feel as though I need to take it upon myself to get them in order, or, have them kind of follow this path that I think I've created out for them, the more stressed and the more anxiety I feel. And my husband said to me the other day, you know what, because I was feeling a bit anxious about something, and he was like, you know why you're feeling anxious? Because you're thinking that you have to do it in your own strength.
Yeah, that's good.
And, he was like, you don't need to do it in your own strength. Give it to God.
Yeah.
Because he's the one who's going to help you. And it has
Sean, that is a
literally
word.
been God
That-
that has helped me.
Yeah, word.
We have a house full of boys. So
I was gonna say she has 3 boys,
Yes.
so that is
it is a full
Yes.
and active household.
Yes.
so yeah, it's just kind of having that grace for them and that patience with them, and for ourselves and
Yeah.
for my husband even, because we're both just trying to parent them to the best that we know how to parent and that we've been taught. And just leaning towards God for that.
yeah.
That's so good.
He's the best parent of all. I think.
Absolutely. He's
And
the most patient.
He's the most patient,
Yeah.
most loving, most
Yeah.
kind, and I couldn't agree more. I feel like so many times we think that we have to do this and we have all the answers,
Yeah.
but we don't. And we have God. We have Jesus that we can rely on, and
Right.
we can go to Him in prayer. We can go to Him with our most angry thoughts and process it with him. And I think that's something I've really had to learn. Like, am I praying about this more than I'm complaining about it? Am I praying and talking to God about it more than I'm talking to my husband or my friend or my mom?
Right.
And really,
That's good.
really learning that he is my strength and he is the only one that's going to be able to help me.
Yeah,
That's so good.
That's really
so
good.
good.
Servants always start miracles. The reason people miss out on miracles often is because they don't ever want to get low and serve. But I'm telling you, servants always start miracles. Oh, I'm so glad Love Week is happening. You ought to be racing to sign up for Love Week. You know why? Because servants always start the miracles. The miracles are not in high, lofty places. The miracles are always in lowly places. You got to look low. We miss out on miracles because we're looking in the wrong place. You got to get low. Come here. Don't you understand that God could not redeem us from heaven? That's why Jesus had to get low and put on human skin and sit where we sat and feel what we feel. You know why? Because servants always start the miracles.
So in that clip, Pastor Robert Madu was talking about how servants always start the miracles. And I loved this example he gave. He said, if you would serve, you would see the miracle, because the miracles aren't in the high and lofty places. You have to get low.
Yeah.
And then he ties in how Naaman had to listen to the servant because the servant was the one that delivered the miracle for him.
Right.
And so I think just as a parent, I would love to hear what that looks like, because you really are giving your everything and you are serving and being humbled. So,
Yeah. One scripture that comes to mind that I love is Matthew 23:11, and it says, "The greatest among you will be your servant." It then 23:11 and 12. It then says, "Whoever makes himself great will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be made great." Personally, I think that serving is very sacrificial.
Yeah.
It's fueled by love. It's rooted in love. And as a parent, I think that some of the ways, serving it can be great. It can be, different forms like outreach. It can be doing things for others, but sometimes it can even be as small as sharing your time, just making time, intentional time for your children, tucking them into bed and taking that extra step to pray with them. Things like that is what I feel like in the last 4 years that God has really been showing me, because when you're working and you're a mom and you've got all these things on the go, it can be a bit busy, and sometimes we can overlook the small things. And the small things are sometimes the greatest things, right? The most impactful things.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I was going to kind of share, even building off that, we were in a pretty low place a couple weeks ago. Me and my daughter got really sick, and I was really disappointed that we got really sick. It was not what I expected, changed all my plans, but in those low moments of seeing her not well, seeing a child unwell always breaks your heart, and cleaning up after them and the stomach issues and just seeing the change in personality when they're sick, it's really hard. But in those moments, it was my opportunity to really not only serve her, but really connect with God. And I think sometimes when you can get low and say, God, I need you, I need your help, I don't know how to do this, I'm feeling disappointed, that's our time to really hold on to him.
Right.
And I think that in itself is serving, being willing to say, God, I need you, I surrender to you, and I'm going to do whatever I need to do right now. I'm going to put myself last, and my focus now is on my daughter and helping her. But God, at the same time, I need you. And I think even if you're not a parent, there's so many other ways that we can be serving people. And maybe it is just texting that friend and just encouraging them with a prayer or a scripture. And taking, like you said, taking that time away from maybe focusing on ourselves and focusing on somebody else. That I think makes all the difference.
Yeah, I love how you said it wasn't at all what you expected, because Pastor Robert Madu also talked about how Naaman's experience and what he was expecting, that gap in between was exactly where the rage fit in and where the anger came in. And you were saying instead you filled it with God and going to God and placing your faith and trust in him. And so I think that that's just an important reminder that I want to share with you all, that when you have your experience and you have your expectations and maybe they're not being met and there's that gap, to fill it with God and fill it with prayer and being still and just listening to to his voice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
That's great.
Well,
That's a great point.
It was a great message.
Yes.
I think it's so important to unpack the sermon every single week. And I think with this one, it just kind of leaves us with that encouragement, right? That like God does work through us.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to remember to just humble ourselves and understand that it's going to be out of our comfort zone. It might not be what we want to do. And it might be hard, but God, there is a miracle on the other side of that when we can just obey God, stay planted in what he wants us to do, and live out our calling. It makes a difference.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I encourage all of you to just be a servant this week.
Yes.
Find somebody that you can serve, whether it is your family, whether it is if you have young kids or teenagers, or if you are not a parent yet, maybe it's a friend or another family member, but there's always somebody that could use that extra encouragement. So
Absolutely.
I hope to see you at church this Sunday, 9:30 and 11:30, and have a great rest of your day.